Hi, I'm Kirk Evans, president of U.S. LawShield. We're here today to talk about some new gun laws in the state of Michigan. So on February 13th, 2024, there are a number of new gun laws that are going into effect in the state of Michigan. These laws are extremely complex, have many exceptions. They're many, many pages long, so I'm not going to be able to go through all of those exceptions and details. This is just simply an overview of it. If you've got questions about the details and the exceptions, we'll talk about that later in the video. All right, the first one is what's called a gun storage bill. And this new law says that you must keep your firearms secured or stored such that they cannot be accessed by minors. Now, it focuses on the access by minors. So if you live by yourself and there's no likelihood whatsoever that, a kid or child's going to get into your home or have access to those firearms, these laws probably don't apply to you unless you can foresee that a child might get into your house and have access to those guns. If you do have children in the house, or you can see that the children might get into your house or have access to those guns, you got to keep them stored safely such that the child cannot have access to them. The penalties for violating the law are laddered or stair-stepped based upon what happens with that firearm if a child gets access to it. If a child gets access to your firearm, says here, mom or dad gives it back to you, you put it away, nothing happens, there's actually no penalty in the law for that. If the child gets access to the firearm, takes it to school or goes outside, threatens someone, points it, there is actually a penalty for that. You could face jail time or a small fine, and it ratchets up based upon other things that happen. If someone is actually shot, injured, or killed, there's a much more severe penalty due to your allowing the child access to that firearm. So the next law also relates to gun storage and security, and that is when you go to purchase a firearm now after February 13th, you must purchase it with a locking or security device. So you must buy a trigger lock or one of those loops that goes through the muzzle that you can secure at one end. Those can be found, fairly cheaply, $2 or $3, or you can buy a gun safe or a gun storage device with the gun right there. Now, what if you say, hey, wait a minute, I've already got a gigantic, expensive gun safe at home. Why do I have to buy a storage device when I go get my new gun? You actually don't. You have to bring in a receipt for the purchase of that gun storage device, and you have to make a copy and give it to the FFL when you purchase your new gun. So if you've got a locking device at home, bring in the receipt, you can go buy a new gun, give that to the dealer, and that actually complies with the new law. Now, what if you say, wait, I've got a gigantic gun safe at home, and it holds many, many guns. Can I just bring in one receipt for that safe? No, you actually have to bring in one receipt per firearm that you want to purchase, and you must have enough receipts to give the dealer for every firearm purchase. Third new law also relates to gun storage, and that is that starting February 13th, 2024, sales tax will be waived on the purchase of gun storage and security devices. So you might say, okay, what's the big deal? $5, $10 trigger lock, no sales tax. Well, it also applies to very expensive gun safes. So if you're spending $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on a very nice gun safe, the sales tax will not apply to that purchase. So if you're thinking about getting a gun safe, you may want to wait until February 13th. One important proviso is the new law does not apply to glass display cases. So the things you see in the movies or you might have at home where you display your hunting rifles or shotguns or antiques or things like that, the new law does not apply to that. You're still going to have to pay sales tax on those devices. Next new law is what's called red flag laws. So many, many states have passed these red flag laws, and what the law allows is certain persons can report to police. It's not everybody, certain people, healthcare professionals, family members, dating relationships, things like that, can report to police that you're a danger to yourself or others and you have firearms, and the court can order that those firearms be taken from you or that you must turn them in, and you will be banned from purchasing firearms during the term of that red flag order. There's a number of troubling aspects to these laws, and the first of which is that many times these orders can be entered without any notice to the gun owner. You can have an order entered against you that your firearms must be turned over without you ever knowing or even hearing about the proceeding or the order. The other troubling aspect is it's technically not a criminal proceeding, and so you will not have a court-appointed attorney. If you want to fight one of these, you'll have to go out and get your own counsel to dispute one of these red flag laws. The next new law is an expansion of the list of what they call prohibited persons. So in Michigan, there's a whole list of people that are prohibited from owning or possessing firearms. And Michigan has now expanded the Michigan list to include certain misdemeanor domestic violence convictions. So you might say, okay, that's pretty significant. Well, federal law also has prohibited persons, and it also has certain domestic violence convictions on that list. The Michigan, even with this expansion, the Michigan list and the federal list may end up being fairly similar. So this might not be that much of an expansion, but we're going to have to wait and see what the courts rule and what the final determinations are on which domestic violence convictions do apply and which do not. So we'll have to see how that plays out. The final item is what they're calling universal background checks. And what that simply means is, at current law in Michigan, is that you have to have a permit or a license to purchase a handgun in Michigan, but not a long gun. The new law now applies to long guns as well. So when you go in to buy a rifle or shotgun, you're going to need to have that license or permit before you can buy that rifle or shotgun. Now, important part of all of this is what we've seen in other states is that there are legal challenges to all these new laws. In California, for example, there was a legal challenge, and one court determined that all the new laws were unconstitutional. A lawsuit was filed in a different court, and the judge there said, no, the laws are all fine. And then those went up on appeal, and there were stays and injunctions and rehearings, and it can get very, very complex. So as these play out, please pay very, very close attention to the developments in the legal system to see how these laws are going to apply or not, or whether they're going to be upheld or in effect. The good news for U.S. LawShield members is that as a part of your membership, at no additional cost to you, you're entitled to call in, ask to speak to the independent program attorney in your state, and you can ask them any questions you may have about these new laws, whether they apply to you, or if there's legal challenges. You can ask, hey, is that new law in effect? Has it been overturned? What does this injunction mean? And ask any questions you may want, see how it plays out and how it might impact you. Thank you for watching this video.